Now, one thing I want to make clear at the start is, at the time of recording this, an $83.3 million opening weekend for Solo here in the United States is still an estimate, which means that final number could fluctuate a bit up or down, not to mention it doesn't take into account that, thanks to Memorial Day, many people will no doubt be throwing around the 4-day holiday weekend total, which should be somewhere around 100 million when all is said and done. And as you can see on your screen, an $83 million 3-day opening is, simply put, bad, really bad when compared to the previous 3 Star Wars movies under Disney. And what's particularly glaring here is that Solo made about half what Rogue One did, which of course is the movie it's most similar to, considering they're both anthology movies and not part of the Skywalker saga. So what I want to try and do here is answer the question, just what went wrong here, or what went right, depending on your point of view. And I know if you watch other videos on this topic, you're probably going to hear a lot of different spins about why this movie thus far is a financial failure. And like with most people making videos on this topic, I'm not an expert on box office numbers. I'm just a fan making some educated guesses. And I'll try to do them without bias and with as much logic as I can use as I look at this from all angles. And the first angle to look at this from is those more hardcore fans who actively boycotted this movie in the wake of The Last Jedi and are likely claiming a victory over Disney and Lucasfilm right now. But here's the thing, these numbers are not the result of an active boycott by a small percentage of fans. There's a lot more at work here than just that. And don't get all excited if you're one of those fans who would have otherwise gone to see this but wanted to send a message to Disney by boycotting it. I'm not trying to discredit your efforts. You have every right to vote with your wallet, and clearly many of you have. But if you do some simple math and take into account the average movie ticket prices just shy of $9, and I'll even round that up to $12 because that seems low, but that's what my research came up with. And then you say 100,000 of the more die-hard fans here in the United States, those who would have otherwise no doubt seen this movie opening weekend, decided not to go. You come up with $1.2 million off the movie's final weekend total. Now, even if each of these people would have seen the movie twice and dragged someone else along with them both times that otherwise wouldn't have gone, you're still only talking about $5 million or so off the weekend total. That doesn't begin to explain why this movie made so much less than the previous Star Wars movies under Disney. But what does begin to explain it is a much wider spread rejection of Disney's Star Wars, making almost half of what Rogue One did and almost 2/3 less than what The Last Jedi did on opening weekends, is not just some hardcore fans boycotting, or even just some of the more casual fans becoming disenfranchised and not turning out. It's those two things plus the general audience also not coming out for a Star Wars movie. Because keep in mind, though there are certainly a lot of Star Wars fans out there, the main bulk of the audience are people who don't live and breathe Star Wars, but are the type that usually turn out for a Star Wars movie and then go about their lives after seeing it. What this number really says to me, and again, I don't claim to be an expert, is that those people who used to almost automatically go to see a Star Wars movie just because it's Star Wars stayed home this time. Yes, disgruntled fans played a part, but again, this is something more. And sure, it does need to be taken into account that Deadpool just came out last weekend, and Infinity War is still doing well enough in the theaters, and both of those are direct competition for Star Wars. No doubt they both hurt this opening weekend number to some degree, but I don't buy that it's a big part of the problem. Again, people used to automatically turn out to see Star Wars movies no matter what the competition had to offer, and considering The Force Awakens is the highest grossing movie of all time in the United States, it means people of all levels of the fandom turned out and kept turning out for that movie because they enjoyed it. But since then, and only 2 movies have come out in the time between The Force Awakens and Solo, something has gone horribly wrong. Some might of course point to franchise fatigue, but that doesn't explain why Marvel can crank out 2 to 3 movies a year and suffer virtually no fatigue, and it's been going now for 10 straight years. It also seems odd to me that 4 movies in 2.5 years would be too much for so many people, and they lose interest in Star Wars simply because of that. And as someone who doesn't much care for The Last Jedi, yet really enjoyed Solo, I find myself in an interesting position right now, because there is a part of me that is no doubt a little pleased that there has been a rebuke of The Last Jedi here, not just by fans, but by the general audience, and a rebuke that hits Disney and Lucasfilm in a way they understand and care about, and that's financially, of course. And if you're someone who is going to try and say The Last Jedi deserves none of the blame for Solo's early failure, you're fooling yourself. And no, I'm not about to go on a rant about The Last Jedi. If you like that movie, that's fine. It's your opinion, and I'm not here to try and change it. To be honest, I'm pretty much just over it and ready to move on. Nevertheless, what such a small opening for Solo says is that, clearly, quite a few people did not enjoy The Last Jedi or the last movie in the franchise. Because here's the thing, Solo is pretty damn good. It's not perfect by any stretch, but it's a highly enjoyable movie, at least from my point of view. It is the movie that a lot of people boycotting Star Wars right now probably want and would enjoy. In other words, in true irony, they're boycotting the movie that maybe, just maybe, was Disney trying to put things right. Because there is a lot of fan service in this movie, a lot of reasons for fans of the franchise to get truly excited. And I don't want to get into a debate about whether or not fan service is good or bad. That'll be a topic for a future video. Nor do I want to get into a debate about if Star Wars needs to move on from the time period of the original trilogy and start to introduce more new characters and just leave the old ones alone already. Again, that's a debate for another video, though yes, it would be nice to see some completely new times, places, and characters. Anyway, watching Solo felt like watching a movie made for fans. It felt very much like an apology for The Last Jedi, at least to me. And I know some are going to complain that they made Lando a pansexual or that the new droid L3 is a social justice warrior droid. But here's the truth about both those two things, coming from somebody who's actually seen the movie. Nothing, and I do mean nothing, in the movie suggests Lando is a pansexual, and the new droid L3, well, if anything, she is a parody of an SJW. Unfortunately, though, some people attached to the movie made some comments about Lando's sexuality being fluid or whatever it was. I didn't really keep all that up on it, and that apparently triggered a lot of people. But if those stupid comments had never been made, and mind you, people asked them those questions as far as I know, they didn't bring up the topic themselves. Anyway, if those comments had never been made about Lando and people had just watched this movie, they would have never thought twice to question Lando's sexuality. And I know some of you are going to take to the comments and say, Thor, I can't believe you're defending Disney and Lucasfilm here. And to those people, I'll gladly offer up a dozen links to videos where I'm very critical of Disney and the decisions they've made thus far, especially in relation to The Last Jedi. What I'm instead doing here is admitting that, again from my point of view, we got a pretty good Star Wars movie, and the true shame of it, or maybe they're just reaping what they sowed with The Last Jedi, is that a lot of people are going to miss out on it, and we run the risk of sending the wrong message to Disney and Lucasfilm about what we actually want out of Star Wars movies. And no, I'm not telling those boycotting it to now run out and see it. As I've said before, it's your money, spend it as you will. But from my point of view, Disney has made one really bad Star Wars movie, or one giant mistake, that being The Last Jedi, while the other three movies they've given us have been anywhere from pretty good to great in my opinion. And I understand many hate having real-world agendas injected into their Star Wars, and I'm right there with you. I don't go to a Star Wars movie for poorly disguised political propaganda. I go to be taken to another galaxy far, far away, and to have a good time with it. And Solo did that for me. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't seem like it's going to do that for as many people as it should. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me why you think Solo has been a failure thus far at the box office. So leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.